Huang Taiji, sometimes written as Huang Taiji and also referred to as Abahai in Western literature, was an emperor of the Qing dynasty. He was responsible for consolidating the empire that his father Nurhaci had founded and laid the groundwork for the conquest of the Ming dynasty. Although he died before this was accomplished, he was also responsible for changing the name of his people from Jurchen to Manchu in 1635, as well as that of the dynasty from Later Jin to Qing in 1636. The Qing dynasty lasted until 1912, because his father, Nurhaci, did not assume an imperial title while alive. Huang Taiji is sometimes considered to be the first Qing emperor, but because Nurhaci was posthumously awarded the imperial title, Huang Taiji is usually called the second emperor of the Qing. Names and titles. It is unclear whether Huang Taiji was a title or a personal name. Written in Manchu, it was borrowed from the Mongolian title Huang Taiji. The Mongolian term was itself derived from the Chinese Huang Taiji, but in Mongolian it meant, among other things, something like respected son. Alternatively, historian Pamela Crossley argues that Huang Taiji was a title of Mongolian inspiration, derived from Hung, a word that appeared in other Mongolian titles at the time. Early 17th century Chinese and Korean sources rendered his name as Huang Taiji. The modern Chinese rendering Huang Taiji, which uses the character Huang, misleadingly implies that Huang Taiji once held the title of imperial prince or heir apparent, even though his father and predecessor Nurhaci never designated a successor. Huang Taiji was very rarely used in Manchu sources because they observed a taboo on the personal names of emperors. In redacted documents, Huang Taiji was simply called the fourth Baal or fourth prince, indicating that he was the fourth ranked among the eight Baal Nurhaci had designated from among his sons. However, an archival document rediscovered in 1996 and recounting events from 1621 calls him Huang Taiji in a discussion concerning the possible naming of Nurhaci's heir apparent, a title that the document refers to as Tays. Tatiana Pang and Giovanni Steri, two specialists of early Manchu history, consider this document as further evidence that Huang Taiji was his real name, not being at all connected with the Chinese title Huang Taiji. Historian Mark Elliott views this as persuasive evidence that Huang Taiji was not a title, but a personal name. Western scholars used to refer to Huang Taiji as Abahai, but this appellation is now considered mistaken. Huang Taiji was never mentioned under this name in Manchu and Chinese sources. It was a mistake first made by Russian clergyman G.V. Gorsky and later repeated by sinologists starting in the early 20th century. Giovanni Steri states that this name may have originated by confusing Abahai with Abahai Shah, which was Huang Taiji's era name in the Manchu language. Though Abahai is indeed unattested in Manchu sources, it might also have derived from the Mongol word Abahai, an honorary name given to the younger sons of hereditary monarchs. According to another view, Huang Taiji was mistakenly referred to as Abahai as a result of a confusion with the name of Nurhaci's main consort Lady Abahai. Huang Taiji was first Khan of the Later Jin and then Emperor of the Qing dynasty, after he changed its name. His title as Great Khan was Bogd Khan. His reign names, which were used in his lifetime to record dates, were Tiankong from 1627 to 1636, and Chong from 1636 to 1643. Huang Taiji's temple name, by which he was worshipped at the Imperial Ancestral Temple, was Taizong, the name that was conventionally given to the second emperor of a dynasty. His posthumous name, which was chosen to reflect his style of rule, was Wenwangdi, which means the culturing emperor or the emperor of letters. consolidation of power. Huang Taiji was the eighth son of Nurhaci, whom he succeeded as the second ruler of the Later Jin dynasty in 1626. Although it was always thought of as gossip, he was said to be involved in the suicide of Prince Dorgan's mother, Lady Abahai, in order to block the succession of his younger brother. This is speculated because at the time of Nurhaci's death, there were 4 lords, while with Huang Taiji as the lowest rank, but also the most fit one. Originally, at the end of Nurhaci's reign, Huang Taiji got hold of the 2 white banners, but after Lady Abahai's death, he switched his 2 banners with Dorgan and Dodo's 2 yellow banners. In the end, Huang Taiji had control over the 2 strongest, highest-class banners, the plain, bordered yellow banner and the most influence. For that, he slowly got rid of his competitors' powers. Later, he would also receive the plain blue banner from his 5th brother Mangaltai, which was the 3rd strongest banner. Those 3 banners would officially become the upper 3 banners during the early part of the Qing dynasty. Ethnic policies. During his reign, Huang Taiji started recruitment of Han ethnicity officials. After a 1623 revolt, Nurhaci came to mistrust his Nikan followers, so Huang Taiji began their assimilation into the country and government. He realized that they would remain the majority and the Manchus would still be the minority, which meant that to control the Han people, they would need to live together, or else the Qing dynasty would become a repeat of the Yuan dynasty, the demise of which was in part due to its rulers losing touch with the people. A mass marriage of Han Chinese officers and officials to Manchu women numbering 1,000 couples was arranged by Prince Yoto and Huang Taiji in 1632 to promote harmony between the 2 ethnic groups. Expansion. He continued the expansion of the state in the region later known as Manchuria, pushing deeper into Mongolia and raiding Korea and Ming China. His personal military abilities were widely praised and he effectively developed the military-civil administration known as the 8 Banners or banner system. This system was well suited to accept the different peoples, primarily Chinese and Mongols, who joined the Manchu state either following negotiated agreements or military defeat. The belief in the Buddhist faith by the Mongols was viewed with disdain and thought to be destructive to Mongol identity by Huang Taiji in private. Huang Taiji said, "The Mongolian princes are abandoning the Mongolian language. The names are all in imitation of the lamas." Although Huang Taiji patronized Tibetan Buddhism in public, the Manchus themselves, like Huang Taiji, did not personally believe in Tibetan Buddhism and did not want to convert. In fact, the words incorrigibles and liars were used to describe Tibetan Buddhist lamas by Huang Taiji. However, Huang Taiji patronized Buddhism in order to exploit the Tibetans and Mongols' belief in the religion. Huang Taiji recognized that Ming Han Chinese defectors were needed by the Manchus in order to assist in the conquest of the Ming, explaining to other Manchus as to why he needed to treat the Ming defector General Hung Chengchu leniently. Huang Taiji started his conquest by subduing the potent Ming ally in Korea. February of 1627 his forces crossed the Yalu River which had frozen. In 1628 he attempted to invade China, but was defeated by Yuan Chongwan and his use of artillery. During the next 5 years, Huang Taiji spent resources in training his artillery to offset the strength of the Ming artillery. Huang Taiji upgraded the weapons of the empire. He realized the advantage of the red cannons and later also brought the red cannons into the army. Though the Ming dynasty still had more cannons, Huang Taiji now possessed the cannons of equal might in Asia's strongest cavalry. Also during this time, he sent several probing raids into northern China which were defeated. First attack went through the Jehol Pass, then in 1632 and 1634 he sent raids into into Shanxi. In 1636, Huang Taiji invaded Joseon, Korea, as the latter did not accept that Huang Taiji had become emperor and refused to assist in operations against the Ming. With the Joseon dynasty surrendered in 1637, Huang Taiji succeeded in making them cut off relations with the Ming dynasty and forced them to submit as tributary state of the Qing Empire. Also during this period, Huang Taiji took over Inner Mongolia in 3 major wars, each of them victorious. From 1636 until 1644, he sent 4 major expeditions into the Amur region. In 1640 he completed the conquest of the Evenks, when he defeated and captured the leader Bombargor. By 1644, the entire region was under his control. Huang Taiji's plan at first was to make a deal with the Ming dynasty. He originally did not want to conquer China. In fact, the people who encouraged him invade China were his advisors Fan Wencheng, Ma Guozhou, Ning Wanwo, who were all Han Chinese. If the Ming dynasty was willing to give support and money that would be beneficial to the Qing's economy, the Qing dynasty in exchange would not only be willing to not attack the borders, but also admit itself as a country one level lower than the Ming dynasty. However, since all the Ming court officials were reminded of the Jin Empire during the Song dynasty, the court heavily refused the exchange. Huang Taiji rejected the comparison, saying that neither is your Ming ruler a descendant of the Song nor are we heir to the Jin. That was another time. This ultimately forced Huang Taiji to take the offensive. Government. When Huang Taiji came into power, the military was composed of entirely Mongol and Manchu companies. By 1636, Huang Taiji created the first of many Chinese companies. Before the conquest of China, the number of companies organized by him and his successor was 278 Manchu, 120 Mongol, and 165 Chinese. By the time of Huang Taiji's death, there were more Chinese than Manchus, and he had realized the need for there to be control exerted whilst getting approval from the Chinese majority. Not only did he incorporate the Chinese into the military, but also into the government. The Council of Deliberative Officials was formed as the highest level of policy making and was composed entirely of Manchu. However, Huang Taiji adopted from the Ming such institutions as the 6 ministries, the censorate, and others. Each of these lower ministries was headed by a Manchu prince, but he had 4 presidents. 2 were Manchu, 1 was Mongol, and 1 was Chinese. This basic framework remained, even though the details fluctuated over time. For some time, the change from Jin to Qing. In 1635, Huang Taiji changed the name of his people from Jurchen to Manchu, or Manju in the Manchu language. The original meaning of Manju is not known, and so the reasons for its adoption remain opaque. There are many theories as to the reason for the choice of name, but 2 of the most commonly cited are its sounding similar to the Manchu word for brave, and a possible connection with the Bodhisattva Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, of whom Nurhaci claimed to be an incarnation. The dynastic name Later Jin was a direct reference to the Jin dynasty founded by the Jurchen people, who ruled northern China from 1115 to 1234. As such, the name was likely to be viewed as closely tied to the Jurchens and would perhaps evoke hostility from Chinese who viewed the Song dynasty, rival state to the Jin, as the legitimate rulers of China at the time. Huang Taiji's ambition was to conquer China proper and overthrow the Ming dynasty, and to do that required not only a powerful military force but also an effective bureaucratic administration. For this, he used the obvious model, that of the Ming government, and recruited Ming officials to his cause. If the name of Later Jin would prove an impediment to his goal among many Chinese, then it was not too much to change it. Whatever the precise motivation, Huang Taiji proclaimed the establishment of the Qing dynasty and also changed his name to Chongde in 1636. The reasons for the choice of Qing as the new name are likewise unclear, although it has been speculated that the sound Jin and Qing are pronounced similarly in Manchu or waxing theory. Traditional ideas held that fire, associated with the character for Ming, was overcome by water, associated with the character for Qing, may have influenced the choice. Another possible reason may be that Huang Taiji changed the name of the dynasty from Jin to Qing in 1636 because of internecine fraternal struggle and skirmish between brothers and half-brothers for the throne. According to Taoist philosophy, the name Jin has the meaning of metal and fire in its constituent, thereby igniting the tempers of the brothers of the Manchu royal household into open conflicts and wars. Huang Taiji therefore adopted the new name of Qing, the Chinese character of which has the water symbol on its left-hand side. The name, which means clear and transparent with its water symbol, was hoped to put out the feud among the brothers of the Manchu royal household. The banner's status. Before Huang Taiji was emperor, he controlled the two white banners. Upon Nurhaci's death, Huang Taiji immediately switched his two white banners with Nurhaci's two yellow banners, which should have been passed on to Dogon and his brothers. As emperor, he was the holder of 3 banners out of 8. He controlled the upper 3 banners of the elite banners, which at the time were the plain bordered yellow banners and plain blue banner. Later the plain blue banner was switched by Dogon to the plain white banner as the 3rd elite banner. At the end of his reign, Huang Taiji gave the 2 yellow banners to his eldest son Huang, who was the 2nd son of Nurhaci, and his son controlled the 2 red banners. Dogon and his 2 brothers controlled the 2 white banners, and Nurhaci's son Jiglang controlled the remaining bordered blue banner. Death and succession. Huang Taiji died on the 21st of September 1643, just as the king was preparing to attack Shanhai Pass, the last Ming fortification guarding access to the North China Plains. Because he died without having named an heir, the Qing state now faced a succession crisis. The deliberative council of princes and ministers debated on whether to grant the throne to Huang Taiji's half-brother Dogon, a proven military leader, or to Huang Taiji's eldest son Huang. As a compromise, Huang Taiji's 5-year-old 9th son Fulan was chosen, while Dogon, alongside Nurhaci's nephew Jiglang, was given the title of Prince Regent. Fulan was officially crowned emperor of the Qing dynasty on the 8th of October 1643, and it was decided that he would reign under the era name Shanxi. A few months later, Qing armies led by Dogon seized Beijing, and the young Shanxi emperor became the first Qing emperor to rule from that new capital. That the Qing state succeeded not only in conquering China but also in establishing a capable administration was due in large measure to the foresight and policies of Huang Taiji. His body was buried in Zhaoling, located in northern Shenyang. Legacy. As the emperor, he is commonly recognized as having abilities similar to the best emperors such as Yongle, Emperor Taizong of Tang, because of his effective rule, effective use of talent, and effective warring skills. According to half-historian and half-writer Jin Yong, Huang Taiji had the broad and wise views of Qin Shi Huang, Emperor Gao Su of Han, Emperor Guangwu of Han, Emperor Wen of Sui, Emperor Taizong of Tang, Emperor Taizu of Song, Kublai Khan, the Honggu Emperor, and the Yongle Emperor. His political abilities were paralleled only by Genghis Khan, Emperor Taizong of Tang, and Emperor Guangwu of Han. In this sense, Huang Taiji is considered by some historians as the true first emperor for the Qing dynasty. Some historians suspect Huang Taiji was overall underrated and overlooked as a great emperor because he was a Manchu family. parents' father, Nurhaci, of the Azan-Joro clan, unifier of Jurchen tribes and founder of the Later Jin. Nurhaci was in turn the son of Taxi and grandson of Jiokanga, mother, Mongo-Joja, daughter of Prince Yanginu of the Yeonara clan, known posthumously as Empress Xiaosigao. Consorts. In 1636, Huang Taiji reformed the titles of imperial consorts, who had all until then been called Fujin. For that year on, there would be one empress and 7 kinds of consorts: imperial noble consort, consort, concubine, worthy lady, palace woman, and responder. Yet 10 of Huang Taiji's 15 wives, 1 first consort, 1 successor consort, 2 side chamber consorts, and 6 ordinary consorts, are known by the titles that his father Nurhaci had used to refer to his own harem. Huang Taiji's 5 primary wives were all from the Borjigit clan of the Qing Mongols, the earliest Mongol allies of the Manchus. Quote, 2 of them were sisters, and both were nieces of Jere, who had been married to Huang Taiji in 1614 and became his empress in 1636. Sons' daughters, whereas Nurhaci's daughters had been called Gege. In 1636 Huang Taiji declared that imperial daughters would henceforth be named state princess. This system was followed with few exceptions until the end of the dynasty. Works cited